Recovery is possible.
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 Recovery dialogues and sober stories.
Welcome back to Recovery Dialogues and Sober Stories. I'm Antonio Matta, and today we're unpacking EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, in plain language. We're not crowning a best treatment for trauma or addiction. We're here to clear up confusion so you can make an informed, evidence-based choice about whether EMDR is worth considering, especially if what you're doing now isn't giving you the relief you hoped for. I want to name the confusion I've seen in forums and on social. People wondering if EMDR is just hype, fears about side effects. Am I even a candidate? Does it help with cravings or relapse risk? And how much does the therapist matter? Those aren't nitpicks. They're honest questions from people trying to heal. We organized the 5 most common concerns and went to the research to separate signal from noise. To help with this, clinician Victoria DePaula will validate what the research is saying throughout today's segment. Victoria DePaula is a New York City psychotherapist working with adults, adolescents, and couples from a trauma-informed, attachment-based lens. She's certified in emotionally focused therapy for couples, trained in EMDR, and pursuing EMDR-IA certification, with clinical focus areas that include trauma, attachment, emotion dysregulation, and couples work. Question 1. Does EMDR actually work, or is it overhyped? EMDR is effective for PTSD and trauma-related symptoms when delivered with fidelity. Reviews and randomized trials consistently find meaningful symptom reduction. It's not a one-session miracle. EMDR is an 8-phase process and typically takes multiple sessions, often 8 to 12 for single-incident trauma, longer for complex trauma. Unrealistic, quick-fix expectations from social media are a setup for disappointment. Think course of care, not a single hack. If you've tried other therapies and plateaued, EMDR is a legitimate option to explore with a trained provider.
Before we actually start working with traumatic memory using bilateral stimulation, we have a whole set of steps we take. We provide psychoeducation about EMDR, make sure that they understand the process and how it works, and we establish resources during this process.
Question 2. What about safety and side effects? In real-world clinics, including patients with complicated histories, EMDR has a strong safety profile when therapists are properly trained. Temporary effects like vivid dreams, emotional waves, headaches, or feeling stirred up do happen, and usually settle as processing continues. The biggest safety variable is not the method, it's whether the clinician follows preparation and pacing steps, especially for people with complex presentations. Ask about training and how your therapist handles prep, grounding, and "what if I get overwhelmed" plans. Those guardrails are part of good EMDR, not extras.
We're also assessing fit for EMDR, making sure a client is stable enough to participate. We wouldn't want to do EMDR with a client that's actively in crisis. For example, they just lost their job, or they're going through a really painful divorce, or a client that is currently experiencing the trauma, because we can't install positive cognitions like it's over. We'll also make some technical adaptations to the protocol of EMDR itself. For example, we might do shorter sets of bilateral stimulation or slower tapping, tones, or eye movements to keep people from getting overwhelmed. We might have clients access ice water or a hot drink to ground themselves if they start to get overwhelmed past their window of tolerance.
Question 3. Am I even a candidate? What if I have complex PTSD, dissociation, meds, or co-occurring conditions? EMDR can help with complex PTSD. People with higher symptom loads often need more preparation and a skilled therapist. But complexity alone isn't a deal breaker. Severe dissociation calls for slower pacing and stabilization first, not automatic exclusion. Medication and substance use need thoughtful planning because certain substances can dampen the emotional engagement EMDR relies on. Clinicians should review and stage care accordingly. A good intake looks at readiness, stability, dissociation, and current meds. If your situation is complex, that doesn't mean no. It means go slower, with more support, and a therapist who knows this territory.
With clients who have complex PTSD or who tend to really dissociate, we tend to take things a lot more slowly. We spend a lot more time doing resourcing and preparation, building therapeutic alliance, making sure they feel comfortable and safe with the therapist, that they're able to self soothe and to ground themselves, that they have a plan for what they're going to do in between sessions if they get dysregulated. All of these things ensure that clients with complex trauma can stay in that window of tolerance required for effective trauma processing. One of the things that I think is really important for people to understand is that dissociation is fundamentally a coping strategy. So if I've experienced something so painful and overwhelming that the only way I could survive was to dissociate, I'm going to really learn to rely on that strategy. It's not happening consciously, it's not a choice, but it happens automatically.
Question 4. Can EMDR help with addiction or cravings, or could it make relapse more likely? EMDR can reduce craving intensity and support recovery when it's integrated with standard addiction treatments. Some clients benefit from addressing trauma early. Others need more sobriety and stabilization before memory work. Sequencing is individualized. When therapists stage it well, safety, relapse prevention, coping skills, EMDR can be a strong addition rather than a replacement. If cravings or trauma triggers are tangled together, ask providers about integrated plans. The headline isn't EMDR versus addiction care, it's EMDR plus the tools that already help you stay steady.
We might also start with more recent, less disturbing memories to acclimate clients to the process before we revisit the first or worst traumas.
Question 5. How much does the therapist and the process really matter? A strong therapeutic relationship and thorough preparation predict better outcomes. That includes setting expectations, installing coping skills, and going at a pace that matches your nervous system. Online EMDR can be effective too when those same safeguards are in place. Cultural fit matters. Sensitive, culturally attuned care improves engagement and results. Interview your therapist. Ask about phases 1 to 3. History, preparation, assessment, stop signals, and how you'll know you're ready to process memories. If doing EMDR online, make sure safety plans and tech backups are explicit.
Fundamentally, the most important thing is always going to be the rapport between client and therapist. I will not start EMDR with a client that I don't have a solid therapeutic alliance with because present safety is really the foundational thing that makes EMDR work. Otherwise, if people don't feel currently safe, they'll dissociate, they'll get defensive, they'll go into re experiencing, things that are generally not considered effective therapy.
Community threads often mix genuine experiences with viral shortcuts. People report blank mind sessions or worry EMDR is just exposure with extra steps. Research tells a more nuanced story. EMDR isn't a magic wand, and it isn't just exposure. It's a structured protocol that blends targeting memories, building skills, and reprocessing with bilateral stimulation. Progress is real, but usually gradual, and preparation is part of treatment, not a delay tactic. EMDR is a viable, evidence-based option, not the only path, not a cure-all. If you're EMDR curious or not getting the outcomes you want elsewhere, an informed conversation with a properly trained EMDR therapist is worth your time. The right fit, good preparation, and thoughtful pacing are what turn EMDR from a buzzword into real relief. Victoria also wanted to share the following about the process, especially for listeners who've used dissociation to survive.
With dissociation, ultimately, what we're trying to help people do is integrate different parts of themselves, feel safer in their nervous systems, be able to experience and respond from their wisest, safest, most adult parts of self and provide healing and self soothing to the traumatized child parts. All of that really needs to happen in a very safe, slow, integrated way.
Victoria, thank you for sharing your knowledge to help educate our community and validate what the research is saying. If you've got questions or a topic you want me to cover, email or DM me on our socials. Your questions shape this show. We're looking for sponsors, an episode or two, or even a full season. If that's you or your organization, let's talk. You can support the show directly through our ongoing GoFundMe, gofundme.com/recovery dialogues, or pick up our merch with meaning, recovery mantra tees, and more at recoverydialogues.com. And of course, comments, likes, and shares help more people find the show. If this episode helped you, pass it on. I'll leave you with this. We don't measure recovery by never stumbling, but by how gently we course correct. Recovery is possible. Let's prove it, one story at a time.
Recovery is possible.
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 Recovery dialogues and sober stories.